but you don't currently have an investment. So I'm going to start with you and ask you, what's your impression when you look at the Turkish market as it is today? And we had those 33 pitches yesterday. Mm-hmm. What's the impression that you form, and comparing Turkey with other European nations?
Yeah. I would actually not compare it to other European nations, although you could venture that Russia is Europe to some extent as well.
Yeah,
but I would compare it to Russia in our experiences there 5 years ago. It's pretty much the same impression I get. It's an incredibly, let's say, energetic crowd I find here. The entrepreneurs dreaming up their world, which is partially what we want, which is entrepreneurs that are very ambitious, very naive to some extent as to what they have to expect along the long race or until they hit the wall, as you said yesterday. There's lots of creative ideas, I think, although I was the one who was a bit provocative yesterday by accusing you of not accusing you, sorry, of presenting at least at this panel the impression that there was many things that were copied over from other businesses in other parts of the world, notably the United States. But that was probably a false impression, and I want to correct this also myself by discovering more about Turkey. I think the challenges that Turkey has, if I compare it to what the pattern we've seen, for example, in Russia and probably in India nowadays as well, is that you do the same thing as Russia did in 5 years, probably in 2 years or 3 years. That is, everything is being compressed, everything is getting done in a rush. Things get overhyped. Valuations, I don't even know where they stand today, but I'm hearing that valuation is just being one criterion or measurement point of where early stage investing stands, could quickly get out of hand. And that is something that is dangerous for the entrepreneurs and their companies. So that is one of the risks I see. What I'd also caution everybody, and we've seen it in Germany, for example, is that initially there was no seed money and no early stage money, or hardly any. Then all of a sudden, the business angels, but the VCs were supposed to fill this gap, and they didn't necessarily because they thought it was too risky. But it's their fault, and essentially we tend to, personally as Mangrove, we always tend to go into the rather riskier part than not. So there was a void, and that void was filled, I'm using the German example, by business angels, which I understand there's also a very active community here. Now what happened though, and I'm not making this a statement relative to Turkey, but I tell you what happened, but my impression was about Germany is that initially there were like, I don't know how many of them, they were just throwing around like in a gunshot approach, small amounts of money over 50, 60, 80 companies in their portfolio. Now, while this was maybe good for you as an entrepreneur to get the much needed initial capital to start, these people essentially couldn't add anything to your business and to the development of your business except occupying anywhere from 10 to 50% in your cap table from day one, essentially. And there were like, and by the time the likes of us came to the table, there were like 10 to 30 investors already in this company, and it was a mess. And raising funds on the basis of this is hard, because even if everything else was green on our checklist, the investor structure is often a red flag. Now, the business angel environment, the business angel community in Germany, I'm using again the example, has matured significantly. They've pretty much all came down to realize that this is not the way they can successfully invest their own money. And they have carved it back to maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 investments. They have grouped up in groups, have created sort of funds themselves. So you saw over the last 10 years, a maturing process, which was much needed and also very beneficial for the early stage companies looking for funding, because to be honest, venture capital money in Europe isn't on the rise. So they started actually covering not just the seed, but into the first round investment needs of you as entrepreneurs and your companies. So what I'm suggesting to and I don't know what the business angel community looks like right now in Turkey, but what I'm suggesting to both entrepreneurs and the business angels is to learn from these experiences and be more disciplined, be more cautious maybe about the way you invest, and structure it.